myself too.
The Type 5 medium tank Chiri, Go Shiki Chunsia Chiri, Imperial Year 2605 medium tank model 9 inches, was the ultimate medium tank developed by the Imperial Japanese Army in World War II. Intended to be a heavier, more powerful version of Japan's prototype Type 4 Chi-2 medium tank. In performance, it was designed to surpass the US M4 Sherman medium tanks being fielded by the Allied forces. A single prototype was incomplete when the war ended. Based on battlefield information from the Eastern Front, Department of Armed Weaponry published a report demanding a shift of tank design focus from infantry tanks to tanks specialized for anti-tank missions. The Army's requirements for these new medium tanks were an increase of weight from 20 tons to 35, and an armor upgrade from 50mm to 75mm. The new tank would be mounted with a new 75mm gun instead of the previous 57mm anti-tank gun. Production focus would also prioritize quality over quantity. The new medium tank was designed as a Type 5 medium tank Chiri. A single unnamed prototype of the Type 5 Chiri was completed by May 1945. The project abruptly abandoned to free up manpower and critical resources to concentrate on the development and production of the more practical Type 4 Chi-2 medium tank. As with many innovative weapons projects launched by Japan in the final years of World War II, production could not advance beyond either small numbers of the prototype stage due to material shortages and the loss of Japan's industrial infrastructure to the Allied bombing of Japan. It was the last tank developed by the Imperial Japanese Army. The Type 5 Chiri featured a weight of 37 tons, a length of 7.3 meters, width of 3 meters, and a height of 3 meters, allowing a crew of 5. It featured a length version of the Type 4 Chi-2 chassis, with 8 road wheels per side instead of 7 to the Chi-2. It had the usual Japanese track arrangement with forward-mounted drive sprockets and rear-mounted idlers. The Type 5 Chiri had sloped welded armor with a maximum thickness of 75mm at the front hull and 25 to 50mm on the side, 50mm on the rear, and 50mm on the turret. The Type 5 Chiri was initially to be powered by a Mitsubishi diesel engine, but the advancements needed to provide the necessary horsepower fell behind schedule, and an 800-horsepower V12 gasoline-fueled aircraft engine designed by BMW in Germany and licensed to Kawashi Heavy Industries in Japan was selected instead. The Kawashi Type 98 800-horsepower engine HA-9 LLB was detuned for the tank to 550 horsepower. The tank had a hexagonal gun turret, and on the left side of the turret roof was a commander's cupola. In front of that was the crew hatch. Originally, the prototype tank was to be fitted with the same Type 5 75mm tank gun, based on the Type 4 75mm anti-air gun used on the Type 4 Chi-2. Eventually, a 88mm gun based on the 88mm anti-aircraft gun was planned for the main turret gun. A secondary weapon of a fixed-hull mount Type 137mm tank was fitted into the position normally taken by a machine gun. Alternatively, the design called for using 2 types of Type 97 heavy tank machine guns in place of the front-hull-mounted Type 1 370mm tank gun. Accordingly to the source, the design called for the ball mounts for a Type 97 machine gun on the left side of the turret for use in close combat situations. There were also plans for Type 5 Chiri 2 to be diesel-powered using the Type 5 75mm tank gun as its main armament. As with the Type 4 Chi-2 tanks, the Type 5 Chiri was originally considered for the final defense of the Japanese homelands against the expected Allied invasions. However, only one unarmed prototype had been completing by the time of the war in the Pacific to an end. The prototype 5 Chiri was seized by American forces during the occupation of Japan and earmarked for test by the Aberdeen Proving Grounds. According to one, the prototype was eventually scrapped. The Ho-Ri-1 was a more powerful tank destroyer gun tank, using 105mm cannon in place of the 75mm gun design, an additional 37mm gun in the front armor plate. The armor was to be 30mm thick, and it was to have a crew of 6. It used the Type 5 Chiri tank chassis, and a superstructure for the main gun was placed at the rear. The engine was positioned in the center area of the chassis, and the driver's situation was in the front hull section, all similar to the German design of Ferdinand Elephant heavy tank destroyer. According to the National Institute for Defense Studies, Ministry of Defense, Ministry Administration of Munitions Mobilization, prototype of January to April 1945, the plan was to produce a total of 5 Ho-Ri gun tanks by March 1945. However, no prototypes are known to have been completed. Another variant of the Ho-Ri was to have twin 25mm anti-aircraft guns on top of the rear casemate superstructure in a swivel mount. A second version was planned for the Ho-Ri 2 tank destroyer. It was used to the Type 5 Chiri tank chassis. The boxy superstructure for the main gun was completely integral with the hull sides and placed at the center of the chassis, similar in design to the German Hagtiger. The engine compartment was moved to the rear of the chassis, and it was also used as a 105mm cannon as its main armament.